when we look at shame, which is the very bottom, shame is the closest thing to death. When you are ashamed, you basically believe like you are a problem. Your existence is a problem. And so people who have deep, deep sense of shame tend to not do things to even sustain their life. They might not eat. Historically, if you were ostracized from your tribe and you had to leave, you were shamed out of your tribe, it was considered a death sentence. It's not a coincidence. It's literally right above death. A lot of people who are on the streets are down at this level. And by the way, when we talk about being at a level, it's not that if you're at 200 that you don't experience emotions down here. It's just that this is maybe your aggregate number. You move up in some ways, you're down in others, but this is sort of your base state. Okay, so it's important to understand that because it's relevant to how you raise your consciousness. So with women, if you have tons of shame, then you're not even going to try to improve because you're like, no woman's ever going to want me. These are guys who maybe drop a comment in the comment section, but are mostly not saying anything. They're not even engaging in the dating world because they hate themselves so much. Then you have guilt, which is right above shame, also super destructive. This is the sense of really deeply internalized like sinfulness, like I'm a terrible person, I do terrible things all the time. My ex left me because I'm bad. It's very self-critical. And so these guys tend to blame themselves for things and not women, right? They feel like they've messed up their lives and they have to constantly atone for messing up, making mistakes. Then you get the apathy. And apathy is actually a more, how do I put this? Apathy is an improvement because but it's still obviously fairly low consciousness. You don't feel like it's really worth doing anything. It's kind of like some really hardcore black pill guys, hardcore MGTOWs might be in that direction where they're like, what's even the point of dealing with women? All women are like that. Women suck. Like you're never going to be able to be successful with them, so why even bother? So it's kind of this cynical position. And then you get to grief. And grief is a big jump forward because when you get to grief, now you're like, I just really wish I could have someone. I really wish that I was able to get someone. And then there's like processing that occurs. You're starting to deal with some of the emotions, and that can springboard you to the next level, which is fear, which is, well, am I not going to be able to, like, what do I have to do to get someone? Like, fear is like where action starts to occur, but it's like gun to the back of the head action. Like, a lot of marketing campaigns are based around fear. Like, you're a beta bitch if you don't buy my course. You're never going to get laid unless you work with me immediately. It's like this kind of stuff. And for a guy who's here, that's like they're going to laugh at that. But for a guy who's down here at fear, they're going to buy because it's going to trigger all their anxiety, and they're going to feel like I have to do something. So these are guys who will decide to go out there and do things with women, but it's like they have to have someone push them into it. They maybe will go out to the bar to meet girls, but they won't talk to any girl. They'll just stay there at the bar and they'll freeze. That's some of the fear coming in there. And then you get to desire. And this is where guys are more driven by what we would call like lust or greed. Like they want to sleep with women, but they have a lot of need for the validation of that. So they'll go and talk to women, but they're usually not super effective. They send it like kind of distorted energy. Maybe it comes across as creepy. Nice guys tend to do this stuff, and essentially it's mixed responses. And these guys will tend to get angry. And anger is a great thing. Anger gets a really big rap in society. But out of everything down here, anger is the big springboard. Can be, at least. Because when you get angry, that's when a guy starts to say, why does this woman have so much power over me? What makes her better than me? And that can become an outburst that then leads to rejection, that then maybe leads him to drop down again, or it can lead him to start changing his behavior and say, you know what, I'm going to go talk to more girls. I don't care. And I'm going to interact with them differently. I don't care about their approval anymore. And then you start to get to pride. And pride is where a lot of red pill gurus end up, in pride. Because they are now able to get women who are in these lower levels, fear, desire, etc. And they have control. Pride is I deserve this stuff, you should be giving this stuff to me. And it becomes this sort of, it's like the whole thing is a power dynamic, it's a war, but when you're at pride, you're on top. And so these guys feel pretty good about themselves, but they might not put themselves in situations where that ego could be challenged. There's that famous expression, pride goes before the fall, because pride is a very brittle confidence, because it's fundamentally based on the other person being beneath you. Everything down here, all of these, are fundamentally parasitic energies. Doesn't mean that if you're there, I mean, we all have pockets of this stuff. None of us are saints in this room. So it's not, I'm not saying that to shame you, but these are all energies that are fundamentally based on lack and are based on, I have it, they lose it. I only get it if they lose it. Once you get to courage, you start to have positive energy where you start to radiate energy and give more than you're taking. And so courage is when you say, well, you know what? I'm afraid, but I'm going to go out there anyway. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to have, maybe I'll compete against some other people, but it's all good if I fail. It's okay. Like, I'll just get back up there. And then you get the neutrality, which is that, well, if she didn't want to be with me, that's okay. There's other girls out there. It's more accepting. You're not even necessarily focused on competing against other people. And then you get to willingness, and this is very honest, self-honest, where something happens and you're like, well, what did I do to cause that? How can I learn? How can I grow? This is where you get into like really positive self-improvement. Everything up here is it's expanding to the world. When you're in one of these levels of consciousness, you're making the world a better place. Acceptance. Now, you're just focused on mastery. What a woman does or doesn't do is not really of concern to you because you're now internally motivated. You're looking at yourself and how you can grow. You're not looking at what women can do with this. And then you have reason. And now you're just interested in learning. So when something bad happens, you're trying to understand what's going on and put things together. There's way less personalization. And then you get to these very, very high levels up here. And love gets a bad rap in the manosphere, that's for sure. But when you get to this point, if a woman were to do something, you wouldn't be affected by it at all. Like up here, you might say, like, I understand why she's doing this. Like, I'm not going to take it personally. Like, this is, like, you might explain it. Yeah, well, women do this because when a woman's insecure, this is how she, presents herself. But when you're up here, you'll look at it and you'll be like, she's such a beautiful person. Okay, yeah, she's insecure about this, but it's cute. It's a very powerful thing. I mean, it sounds beta because most guys are trying to mimic that down here. They don't actually feel it. They're just hoping, like, if I tolerate her bad behavior, maybe she'll, let me hit it. Whereas up here, it's like a real unconditional love and acceptance. And then you have up here,